Good evening, and welcome to the 2017 Ward 2 and 3 Candidates Forum. My name is Suzanne Moriali-Lieber, and I'm the President and CEO of the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce. This event is brought to you by WMCT-TV and the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce. This is an important part of the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce and Government Affairs agenda. As an independent organization, we provide a platform for these debates, helping the business, employers, and the residents of Marlborough decide who they want to represent them. Tonight's forum is aired live on cable and Verizon Fios and will be rerun until elections on November 7th. Please check WMCT-TV.com for times. We've come together to present this forum for your information. I hope the questions that are posed to each of the candidates will encourage everyone to make an informed vote on November 7th. This evening, we have two candidates for the office of Ward 2 City Councilor. They are incumbent David Doucette and candidate Richard Yerkes. And we also have two candidates for the office of Ward 3 City Councilor. They are incumbent Matthew Elder and candidate Christian Dumais. The panelists for this evening are Molly Broder from Al Broder's Auto Body and Darren McLaughlin. Our official timekeeper for this evening is Karen Callahan, owner of Adventures Online. I'd like to thank them in advance for participating. Now, the ground rules for this forum. Each candidate will open with an opening statement, which will be 1 minute, according to the number they chose earlier, followed by questions from the panel in rotation. Each candidate will have a 1 minute response. The candidates will then have an opportunity to ask his opponent at least 2 questions, time permitting, with a 30-second rebuttal. The forum will then conclude with each candidate giving a 2-minute closing. And those were also according to the numbers they chose earlier. I would like to thank the audience in advance for practicing courteous behavior to all involved and for turning off their cell phones. Okay, we're going to start with our opening statements. Our opening statements, David Doucette chose number 1.
Thank you, Suzanne, and thank you to the Marlborough Chamber of Commerce, Marlborough Cable TV for hosting these forums. I also want to put out a big thanks to people in Ward 2 who came out to vote Tuesday in the preliminary election, showing that democracy is alive and well in Ward 2. I'm Dave Doucette, and I'm running for re-election to the Ward 2 City Council seat. I started working in Marlborough in '87 for Digital Equipment Corporation. My wife and I moved in the city in '91, making us somewhat of a relative newcomer compared to other families in the city. I'm married with 2 daughters and 2 grandchildren, and I have a 30-year business and technology background with an electrical and computer engineering degree with honors from Northeastern University and an MBA degree with high honors from Clark University's Graduate School of Management. I have worked for Fortune 50 companies and startups. I've been part and led diverse teams ethnically as well as technical, business, and legal professionals, delivering solutions to problems faced by businesses and consumers, not just something off the shelf. This experience brings a different perspective to issues facing the city and truly adds value to the discussion and debates in the City Council. I'm saving the rest of my speech for the closing speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dumais.
Thank you, Suzanne, and the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce and WMCT-TV for this opportunity. As mentioned, my name is Christian Dumais, and I am running for Ward 3 City Councilor. For those that may remember, I did have an unsuccessful bid in 2015. That campaign was tough for many reasons, but the most challenging was battling a blood clot in my lung. I am not here for sympathy. I'm here to share with you why I should be your next City Councilor, clot-free. I believe Ward 3 needs a voice and ear that can offer compassion and understanding. When the current representation does not return emails, voicemails, or show up to community events, it is time for a change. As a 5th-generation Marlboroughite, I want what is best for you, the constituents who live in this great city. I can promise you that you will be heard. My sole responsibility at Jermaine Hair Salon is customer satisfaction and catering to all clients who come in. This is what I excel in, and I have no concerns that I'll do that for you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Elder.
Hello, my name is Matt Elder, and for almost 8 years I've had the honor of being your Ward 3 City Councilor. I'm a husband and a father and a small business owner. Many of you have seen my kids grow over the past 8 years. Seems like just yesterday I printed a push card with Connor on it, who was a newborn, who is now 4. I own Ultimate Mobile Gaming, a video game trailer and laser tag company, and we go to parties, functions, and events across multiple states. We have grown to be one of the most successful video game trailer companies in the country. It's easy to say we need a new voice or a fresh face. It's easy to suggest we need a new direction. But the real question is, why? We don't need a new face, we don't need a new voice, nor a new direction. Marlborough has a great bond rating, taxes are stable, and we bring in thousands of new jobs while addressing major infrastructure needs. If we need anything, we need to continue down the impressive path we've headed on for years. I look forward to discussing my proven leadership with my opponent tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Yerkes.
Thank you, Susan. My name is Dick Yerkes, and I'd like to tell you a little about myself. I'm a former Ward 2 City Councilor who was redistricted out, and then I served many years as a councilor at large. I've been on all the committees, and I chaired Finance and Urban Affairs, the 2 keystone committees. My education, master's at Lesley College, and a master's certificate in project management from George Washington University. I've been involved in this community for over 45 years. My wife and I moved here, and I got involved almost immediately. I have 24 years as a baseball coach. I was past vice president of Girls Inc., chair of trustees at First Church Marlborough Congregational, and I chaired the fundraising and co-chaired site preparation committee for the Kane School Community Playground. My work, I started with New England Telephone out of high school. I worked for AT&T, Paradigm, and Selectron. I've got a wide experience, and I would like to use it again for the residents of Marlborough.
Thank you. Okay, now we have the opportunity to go to the next part. Each panelist will ask a question, and you all, of the same question of all 4 of you, and you have 1-minute response. Darren McLaughlin.
Good evening. Marlborough offers multiple educational opportunities for our students, which together make our communities attractive to new families. What will you do to assist these schools to function more closely in unison to fully maximize their potential?
Mr. Yerkes?
Well, as a city councilor, the only direct input that we have is on the bottom line of the budget. We can comment on specifics, and the school committee can either ignore us or agree with us. So that's I think a hard and a tough question to really ask her in direct questions. My daughter happens to be a teacher in the school system, 19 years now, and right now presently at the Kane School. So I'm aware of many of the issues. As a former councilor, we voted and brought in temporary buildings at the Kane School over 15 years ago. Nothing has been done.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Dumas?
I had the pleasure of meeting with Superintendent Grulich within the past month, and she says that the budget is fairly well, but there was room for improvement. Being a product of Marlborough High School, I actually slipped through the cracks and had a learning disability that was diagnosed late in my junior year. I was the first class in 8th grade to move up to the high school, and this is actually less terrifying than being a 100-pound soaking wet 5'4" 7th grader going into the high school. So overcrowding is still an issue. So especially with the elementary school. So I know that there is plans to build an elementary school in that regards. So having said that, I would like to work closely with the superintendent to realize what the actual needs are at the elementary school level, as well as reading specialists and things of that nature. So it's constantly looking at the budget and see where we can improve, especially with the ESL program. Our language population is thriving here in Marlborough, as well as the actual growth within the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Elder?
Thank you. So what Mr. Yerkes kind of alluded to, I'll second. The city council really doesn't have much say other than we have a number that we can either cut or approve. So we could, as a council, want to add $5 million to the budget when it comes before us, and we can't do that. So in terms of, there's a school committee that deals with all that way more. They're elected to do that. They're way more involved in the day-to-day operation of the schools and their budget and the programs. In terms of what we do, there is a new school coming to the city soon. We're just beginning that process now. We're in the middle of that process now. It's about a 7 or 8 year commitment from beginning to end. So we're about 4 years away or so from that happening. We're beginning to take a look at, some of the numbers in terms of that. So, other than looking at the numbers, there really isn't a lot for the council to do. We have no say over the programs. We have no say over the curriculum. We just take a look at the budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Doucette.
Thank you very much. I'll echo the comment basically that, we really don't have much control of the actual budgetary aspects of it. There is a new proposed school that's for a elementary school for the city, which would allow us to reshuffle where the grades are in the different schools. I'm all for that. I'm not necessarily happy with the location, and I'm hoping, at least at some point as we move forward, we're looking into some alternative locations than that. I do think that at least, working with some of the schools, we can provide some degree of help and assistance. I'm a big fan of STEM teaching, because I have an engineering degree. I've seen the benefits of that. And I've talked at least once with some of the science and engineering schools about, what sort of possibilities there would be for that. So, and I think that we should continue looking into that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Molly Broder.
Good evening. With all of the new development on the west side of the city, how would you address the public safety needs?
I'd like to go to Mr. Elder.
Thank you, Susan. That was a big concern that a lot of the councilors had, especially those of us representing the western part of the city. And one of the things we did was we made sure that the Apex developers paid for a site study for a new fire station. So we've been talking about a new fire station for decades, and now we're finally in the next couple of months going to fund a study that's going to say where a third station would go, where a fourth station would go. So we'll have those 2 sites picked out, and then, the mayor can decide where it's going to go. Public safety is obviously a huge concern, and with all the development coming to the area, that was what some of my colleagues and myself were really focusing on. We didn't think we needed a new study to see if we needed a new fire station. I believe all 11 councilors agree that we need a new fire station. I believe the mayor agrees that we need a new fire station. But the issue is starting the process, picking a site. That's the first step. Once you pick a site, then you can figure out if it's going to be a third station or a fourth station, and then you can move forward with the funding for that. So, the Apex Center was literally the straw that broke the camel's back to bring a new fire station to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Doucette.
Thank you very much. Considering I started working on Forest Street back in '87, there wasn't a fire station back then. It's something that's actually been noticeable for me for a while. I think that it's critical that we need to put something on the other side of town. Whether or not it replaces a fire station that we have or it's a brand-new one, that's part of the process that we need to go through to figure out. I also think it's important that we consider more of a multi-feature type of facility, which is a combination of both fire and police. That's becoming also much more common for municipal buildings, that the two are combined in some sort of emergency service facility. And I think that would be worthwhile, because that way at least the police could use some of the facilities. When they're on the other side of the town, they'd have to always come back to the headquarters. So I think that would be beneficial as well.
Thank you. Mr. Dumais.
I would also echo what Mr. Doucette is referring to regarding police and fire. Fire has been a hot topic for years now, but yet we don't really hear much about the police presence here. As we populate and as we grow within the city, there's also a demand for actual response with police. So I'd like to investigate that as well to see what is actually needed in regard to police safety for the safety of the constituents and not just fire. Thank you.
Very good. And thank you, Mr. Yerkes.
Yes, this fire station on the west side has been over 20 years. When I was previously on the council, we thought we had a handle on it when the Gutierrez brothers, long before the Apex Center, donated land, and it went nowhere. So that is a major issue, and I'm glad it may be coming finally to fruition. However, what is also needed, I believe, is to reinstitutionalize a traffic division. Traffic is here to stay. It's only going to get worse. And the major complaint that I've gotten over 700 homes is the traffic is too fast. So we're going to have to look at increasing the police as well as the fire department to handle totally safety within this city, and it's a major issue for our people. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. McLaughlin, could you ask your second question?
Certainly. What do you see as the most pressing issues within your respective wards?
I'd like to start with Mr. Dumas.
Sure, thank you. I think that one of the most pressing issues is actually just, as I'm knocking on doors, I think that the people, especially behind the Apex Center, don't really have a voice, so they are not being heard. That Apex development, especially on Glen Street, really reshaped that whole neighborhood. It's actually a really great, cute little community to live in. It's a great area to start a family, but now the traffic and that whole development has really reshaped because they can visibly see the Apex Center right in front of their homes. So I think just being listened to and understanding where they're coming from, because now as they go home, they have to see this complex day in, day out. Everyone always says, not in my backyard, not in my backyard. This literally is in their front yard. And I feel that that was not heard of, is not taken into consideration, and I don't want to see that on another project that's happening on William Street in a retirement community as well. I want to make sure the residents are actually being heard.
Thank you, Mr. Yerkes.
Yes, there's two major issues facing Ward 2. Number one is traffic, again on Farm Road. The last traffic study, a year, 18 months ago, 9,000 cars daily. They repaved Farm Road, and they put up some nice little number signs flashing, you're going too fast. You need police coverage out there during the commuting hours, at least 7 to 7. That's where I mentioned earlier, traffic division. The other is, I'd love to see the city step up and buy the airport land. Buying it and financing it, and then you can take your time on deciding what you want to do. There's a perfect possible location than what they're proposing for the new elementary school. But that only time will tell what we're going to do and what will become of the airport. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Doucette.
Thank you. I agree that traffic is one of the biggest issues that is confronting that Ward 2 of the city. Farm Road, you know, the paving did a great job. I honestly think the feedback signs, the radar signs are actually, to some extent, keeping the speed down, but also the traffic volume has increased, mostly to try to avoid the construction that's going on East Main Street, because people are trying to avoid downtown by using Farm Road as a shortcut. There is also in plans a Route 20 Route 20 highway study to kind of reformat Route 20 to be better, more effective for transportation. I think that's important to keep an eye on. That's in the works. I agree as far as Mr. Yerkes, as far as what to do with the airport. You know, she's under agreement right now to sell it to a developer. It may be an option in the future for the city to buy it. I'm not sure exactly what to use it. I think it'd be an opportunity for us to do something.
Mr. Elder.
Thank you. So I do agree with the development of Ward 3 is the big concern. Obviously, the Apex Center is at the forefront of that. You know, something was going to get developed there at some point. They had certain things they could have done as of right. As of right, they could have built a 4-story office building if they wanted to before they sold the land. 3 years ago, they wanted to put apartments there. So now with the Apex Center, we have 400 to 500 jobs, $1.5 million in tax revenue. Glen Street's being paved next year. That's going to be a beautifully landscaped parcel. So the city worked very closely with the neighbors to make sure their voices were heard with that. A lot of the neighbors on Glen Street aren't happy with it, and I could certainly see why. But the bottom line is that, you know, they lived right across the street from a developable piece of land that was going to be developed at some point. And if this didn't happen, could have been a 4-story office building. It could have been apartments. It's not perfect for the people on Glen Street, but the council got all sorts of things back for them. Like I said, the paving of Glen Street, the $1.5 million in taxes, they did $1 million sewer upgrade. So, you know, the residents in the area were heard, and they're getting a pretty good building out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next question from Ms. Broder, if you could ask your second question.
Sure. What are the top 3 areas of concern in the city that you would work to address?
I would like to start with Mr. Doucette.
Thank you very much. I think traffic is probably one of the more critical ones. It's something that is a growing issue as basically development goes on. And evaluating other forms of public transportation would be worthwhile, especially in cooperation with New England Sports Center when they have their tournaments in town and stuff like that, to kind of offload that, even if it's temporary bus service or other types of improvised service. The other is, what to do with the schools. Where is the new school going to go? I think that is an important part as we confront right now, looking as what's going, how is that, where is it going to be located, how is that going to impact the schools? And the third is the emergency fire station, police station on the other side of town. We need to get something there.
Thank you. Mr. Elder?
Taxes is the big thing that I think a lot of people are concerned with. No resident has ever told me they feel like they're not being taxed enough. So it's making sure we spend the tax dollars appropriately. Marlborough's in a good spot financially. We have a stable tax rate. People always think, with all the development, when are taxes going to go down? And I don't think you're going to find a counselor that dislikes taxes more than I do. But the fact is, when you have thousands of teachers and employees and police officers and firefighters all working very hard and all guaranteed contractual raises, there's no real wiggle room for the budget to go down. So a lot of people are concerned about taxes. Housing, there's a lot of apartments that are being proposed. Where they're going to go, what's the impact going to be on the neighborhoods? Same thing, residents are never excited about apartments. Nobody's ever said they're really excited about a 400-unit apartment building being placed near them, so that's another concern. And just the development, especially with Ward 3, it was literally built to be a business center, and now it's a business center that's working around thousands of residents, and you got to make sure that everything's built appropriately.
Thank you. Mr. Yurkis?
Yes, looking at it provincially, if I was elected as the Ward 2 councilor, it's the same issues within the ward as within the city. Public safety, fire and police, traffic, the volume, and the third issue is how much money can we bond? How much money can we afford? How much money can our children afford if they're living here? And how much money going to be our grandchildren going to have to pay? So we're going to have to look at that very seriously and prioritize certain issues on the bonding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Dumas?
Obviously, we talked about a few things today of fire and safety. That's obviously a concern of mine. The second issue would be the lack of room for development. Marlborough's running out of space. We're developing very quickly with a lot of big business that's moving in, which is great for taxes. However, we don't talk about affordable housing. I'm not just talking about affordable housing for our seniors. I'm talking about affordable housing for everyone, for those first-time buyers that want to come in to move to Marlborough. Marlborough is a blue-collar town. It always has been. We're so proud of it being a shoe factory. We're kind of losing that focus of where Marlborough was to where we're becoming. We're becoming this industrial, big business type of corporation, but we're losing that community and that atmosphere where you can want to come here, where you raise a family, but you can't afford a home. I know a lot of people that I graduated with are moving out of Marlborough because of either school systems or because they just simply can't afford it. So they're moving out towards Worcester or Clinton. That's an issue for me. So I want to keep the residents that grew up here to stay in Marlborough because Marlborough has that rich history that I would like to bring back and bring that sense of community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. McLaughlin, could you ask your third question, please?
Looking ahead, in your opinion, what are the major issues facing the city in the next 2 years? How would you balance the wants and needs of the business community with the wants and the needs of the residents?
I'd like to start with Mr. Yurkis.
Oh, thank you, Susan. The basic, how you balance between residential and business, if business wants to come in on a piece of land that's not been developed, you have to really guard and protect the residents that are there. And the residents could be residents or it could be other commercial buildings. That's what, and God's not making any more land in Marlborough. So we should be really striving for nothing but quality to improve this city. Nightlife, daylight, the whole atmosphere. We want this. When I first moved to Marlborough, my wife and I first moved to Marlborough, Marlborough was a country kind of city. That's gone. So we've got to make it one that people can enjoy to live here, shop here, and buy here. Thank you.
Mr. Dumais?
Well, I think the Marlborough can actually benefit by supporting the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce, first and foremost. They are the backbone of small businesses. And being a member of the chamber, I got incredible support from the chamber in the 7 years that I've been open, especially when I had no idea how to network or how to build a business. The chamber really picked me up, and actually I built connections that way. There's a lot of focus on MEDC, which supports the big businesses, which is fantastic. But Marlborough needs to work on the small business. Everyone wants to support local. And I think if the residents get a clear message that the chamber is here and available, and these are the resources that you have, and to support small businesses, the small business employees and owners support firsthand the community that they actually live in. And I think that goes hand in hand, and they mesh each other and they tie each other together. And I think that's being lost as soon as MEDC, which is fantastic, they do a lot of great things, but that message is being lost because they're constantly building big, and we need a small business focus because it helps everyone in the end.
Thank you. Mr. Elder?
Thank you. So, I mean, when you bring in some of these big businesses, there's a strong trickle-down effect to the other businesses. So if you bring in a Quest Diagnostic or a TJX or a business that brings in thousands of employees, they all have to eat somewhere. They want to go out and grab a beer and a burger after work. You know, they need to get gas somewhere. So, you know, when you bring in a lot of these big businesses, there is a strong effect on the smaller businesses. You look at the Apex Center, 2 hotels. You know, that's going to bring in a lot of more tourists in the city. Say there's a family that goes to 110 Grill every single time they're here, their 5th visit here, they think that's great, but let's go to Welly's, let's go to Fish. So bringing a lot of these big businesses, there is a trickle-down effect to the smaller businesses. And I think that's a big focus, is that you want to make sure that, you know, you work with both of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Doucette?
Thank you very much. It's interesting because when I started working at Digital Equipment Corporation on Forest Street, what is now 200 Forest Street, as well as Results Way, Puritan Way, all those others, that was all deck. And in fact, deck owned 23 buildings throughout the entire city. So we were a deck town back then. They're gone. They've been replaced. What was replaced was effectively a couple of large businesses, such as Quest Diagnostic, Whole Foods Northeast Headquarters, GE Healthcare, TJX. The small businesses have different demands. You know, the big businesses want easy transportation, safe as far as easy access to public safety and all that. The workers want to be able to work and visit the small towns to eat. But Apex is developing a different business model where people are coming to Marlborough to live an experience. And Apex actually complements that. So I think that the character of the business models for Marlborough will be changing significantly in the next couple of years.
Thank you very much. Ms. Broder, could you ask your third question?
Sure. How do you feel your current or past job experience will assist you in your role as city councilor if elected?
We will start with Mr. Elder.
Thank you. So I've owned a business for about 7 years now, with the sports leagues that I used to run, and now the gaming trailers. You know, I've always worked with kids, you know, so you talk to kids from all across the city and the state, and, you know, you see what their concerns are, and, you know, talking to families, because, you know, that's who we represent. So we always talk about, you know, businesses and families and residents and taxpayers, but the bottom line is families. And when you talk to children every day, you know, you see what their concerns are, whether it's, you know, what's going on at school or what park they can play at. So I think working with kids and families, you know, gives you a unique understanding in terms of, you know, what their needs are.
Thank you. Mr. Doucette.
Thank you very much. My background includes both engineering and business, so I think the two complement each other as far as the issues that confront the city. There's a series of technical and engineering issues involved in development, you know, how that impacts the business aspects of the city, how their business plan is going to be effective or something, to see how that's going to get done. Also, as part of, you know, developing new products, there was something called a design review, which is basically going into a room with a group of people and leaving your egos at the door. You know, the intent here is to basically focus on the benefits for the consumer, your customer, at the end of the day. And I think that process is very much similar to how the city council works. Because what comes into the city council, you know, we're looking for the best interests of the city and trying to ask questions and resolve issues that we think is important from the perspective of the city to address. And I think that's an important part. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Yerkes.
Yes, combination of professional corporate work as a project manager, learning how to assemble a team of anywhere from 15 to 25 on a project where you have responsibility to get their jobs done, but they report to a different manager. Also, myself as a former counselor, I have the experience that is needed, and I've shown it. I'm a person that's very analytical. I don't take sides just because so-and-so's bringing down a idea or a project. I look at it and figure out what's best, not only when I was a ward councilor for the ward, but when I was an at-large councilor for the entire city, and made a decision that way. And boy, do you make enemies when you go against what someone wants. But I had the reasons and the wherefore to tell them why, and that's what's needed. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Dumas?
This is a great question, and I actually operate a hair salon in Marlborough, and the salon industry is cutthroat, and there are a million salons here in Marlborough. You drive by probably 8 of them just on Main Street alone. However, what my salon offers is me. I give myself completely, my team, it stems from the top. I set an example. The clients that come in, they want to feel comfortable, they want a great service, we offer wine. I listen to my clients, and I have to make sure I understand where they're coming from and what they want. That's no different than what the constituents of Ward 3 need. They want to be heard, they want to be listened to. I had no experience whatsoever when I opened the salon. I asked a million questions, everyone that came through the door. What do you do? How do you do this? What's going on? And I built that business, and now we have great reviews. We have a fantastic clientele, I have a great team. So the knowledge that I've gained from the salon and building that business transcends completely over to being your next city councilor.
Thank you very much. Now we have the opportunity to go to asking questions. Each candidate will ask a question of his counterpart, and I'm going to go in the order of their opening. So, Mr. Doucette, if you could ask a question. Your
Thank you.
first question.
Okay. This is a question for Dick Yerkes. You spent a lot of time on the council many years ago, and you've seen the outcome of your decisions since then. Do you have any decisions or votes that you can look back at and would have changed your vote? And why?
No, I don't think there's one on any major project. Like when the Solomon Pond Mall was proposed, or the skating arena, there was a lot of anti-people. And we sat down in committee, listened to them, and ironed out the problems. In fact, one of them was the traffic on the side roads. We had a couple of no left-hand turn signs. And the police found out the biggest offenders were the residents, and we had to take them down because it made them happy. And I don't think anybody would say that those projects are bad. In fact, they're a great attribute to the city. They've added to the tax base, and they have got some great jobs down there. So no, not one. Thank you.
You have a 30-second comment or
Okay.
rebuttal?
Well, I can't follow up the question, but it would be interesting, because obviously there probably would have been some projects that came to the city that weren't approved, so it could have been also.
Absolutely.
So I assume that would have been covered as well. You think?
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
I can't think of one off the top of my head. It was a long time ago.
It's his turn.
Okay. But, I think it's.
15 seconds.
Okay, I think it's just important to take things into perspective over time and make sure you understand and learn from the experiences, so.
Thank you very much. Okay. Mr. Dumas?
Mr. Elder, you're aware that the library project is in motion. They had a feasibility study, and numerous people reached out to you over a few-week period for you to be a part of that, yet with no response. Every other city councilor, mayor, and members from this community took part in this study. When a grant that needed to be filed for $10 million needed approval from the city council, you and only you vetoed this. Why?
I've been adamant and I'm non-apologetic about this. If the city's looking to spend $10 million in a building, I think it should be a fire station. After people reached out to me, I started to tell them that's where I am and that's not going to change. And I told a couple people that wanted to meet with me, it's a waste of your time and mine. So you can give me the song and dance about how great the library is going to be. It's a waste of your time, it's a waste of mine, because if the city wants to spend $10 million on a building, I think it should be done on one that saves lives. I mean, I was vocal about that from the entire discussion about it. And I hope that the mayor, with the funding not coming in from the state, I hope that now that we had $10 million that we're dying to spend on a library, I hope that moves the fire station forward a couple of years. I'm not going to apologize for wanting to prioritize a fire station over the library. I didn't meet with a lot of the people because I told them it's a waste of your time and a waste of mine, because no matter what bill of goods you sell me, I want a fire station first.
Thank you. And do you have a comment?
Thank you. So, not to be disrespectful, because I understand where you're coming from. We definitely need a fire station. However, with that mentality, does that mean no project can ever move forward until we get the fire station? So when the library comes aboard, or excuse me, when the elementary school comes on to your vote, are you going to veto that? Or any other type of community project to build this city and make it better for the residents? Does that mean that that also is going to get a no unless you get your fire station? I just don't understand that mentality.
Thank you. He can't answer. He can answer later. Okay. Mr. Elder?
Thank you. So obviously, we have a difference of opinion on the library, and you've been very vocal in your support of it. So other than the library, can you please list 2 or 3 votes that I've taken over the 8 years I've been on the council that you would have done differently, and why?
I would have advocated to move the senior center to a different location. I'm all for the senior center, but I don't think that location was the prime real estate for that as well. And the Apex, I think that, I'm all about the development and the taxes and the employment, but the landscape of the Apex Center, I don't agree with it. I don't think it should have been configured that direction. And I actually would love to see, they did a balloon test to see where the level of the buildings are, and I would love to see if that balloon test actually is there to actually make the architect to hold accountable, because I believe the buildings are a lot higher than what they stated to be. So between the senior center and as well as the Apex, I just would have a different thought process. And what the senior center did for this community, the library can do the same for every constituent that's here to make it a more viable city.
Thank you.
I actually met with one of the most vocal opponents of the senior center 2 days ago, a woman on Hayden Street, and her first comment to me was how beautiful the park and the senior center look. So it was not just the senior center, it was also the park that we were looking to really focus on. Ward 3 councilors for 20 or 30 years were talking about doing Ward Park over, and now we have a beautiful senior center and a new park there. So I think even the people that were against the senior center now see the beautiful senior center, now see a beautifully redone park that we spent millions of dollars on, and they appreciate what the city did. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Yerkes?
Thank you, Susan. David, I don't know the mayor's time frame, but he's proposing approximately $100 million in bonding. I don't think we can afford that much. Could you please prioritize the following on how you'd vote: the fire station, new school, and library?
Thank you. I agree with you as far as the bonding of this has to be taken into account, because we have to understand how certain bonds have matured, so that therefore we end up with open cash flow to cover new bonds that go in. What surprised me is the speed that the library has actually come onto funding, even though it's gone up to the state earlier this year, and we are on the waiting list at this point. And I think a lot of that has to do to credit to a lot of the library people who are working to get matching funds going from that. The new school and the fire station also have to be taken into account, and probably of equal cost to the city as well. So I think that I would prefer to see the fire station go in first, and then the new school, and then the library, because of safety. But it also depends upon how much coverage we also get for costs from the state and how the bond matures and everything. Thank you.
Thank you. And you have a comment?
Well, if you're the Ward 2 councilor, the people in Ward 2 are the most important. And in my opinion, the school, I'm not saying the $64 million school, but a new school should be built because of the crowded situation at the Kane School. That's only going to get worse, especially if we end up with new apartments down at the airport. So you got to look at who you're representing and vote for their point of view.
Thank you. Now, our second round of questions, I'm going to go by the close choices. And the first one would be Mr. Dumas.
Mr. Elder, you've been a counselor for 8 years, and that's no small feat, so congratulations on that. Your platform always been the fire station and keeping taxes low, even though you denied a $10 million grant saving taxpayers. However, we are no closer to a fire station when I ran 2 years ago. My question to you is, have you read the 2014 assessment of the organization and management of the Marlborough Fire Department? It was an independent study that came out. Officer Breen, I think, may have talked to you during the last City Council. Did you get a chance to read that documentation, and what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, we've always talked about restructuring, the fire department. I kind of yield to the mayor. A lot of that stuff is contractually obligated, so, the city council doesn't really have much say in terms of the structure of the fire department in terms of assistant chiefs and deputy chiefs. A lot of that is contractually obligated with the unions, and it takes years and years to come up with that. And I couldn't disagree with you more that we're no closer to the fire station than we were 2 years ago. A site study is going to be done in the next couple months. We're going to have Site A, Site B. That's never been done. We've been talking about for 20 or 30 years. We need a fire station somewhere. Where is it going to go? And literally in the next couple months, we're going to have a place that a third station would go, a fourth station would go. So I couldn't disagree with you more that we're no further along than we were. And I did not deny any grant. The state denied the grant. So I had no impact on the state approving the grant. It was the $10 million funds were not given to us. I have no say in, applying or denying or approving any state grant. That was a state decision that I had nothing to do with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have a comment?
Yes, we did get the grant. We're just on the waiting list, so that money is actually allocated to us for the library. However, the reason I bring out that report specifically is because in that report, it's a 222-page document of wonderful literature. Recommendations for the city of Marlborough. There's 150 recommendations for this library. I believe that those recommendations should be heard before we build a fire station, because these men and women that save lives every day for firefighters, they need a lot more love. And I think if we just build a library, it's a quick fix. We really need to focus on these 150 recommendations that this study has.
Thank you. Let's see. Mr. Doucette.
Thank you very much. Dick, again, you were on the council years ago, but since then, you left and you pursued other interests. How have you changed, and how has your perspective has changed since the first time you were on the council?
How have I changed? That's an interesting question. I think I've changed quite a bit when I operated my own business. I was laid off in 2000, and in 2001 I ran out of unemployment. I couldn't live on the unemployment anyways, and I started a handyman business. And when my son came on board for me, when he finished college, he learned a valuable lesson. I had a saying that I said to him, we say what we do and we do what we say. And that's what you have to do on the council also. You can't tell one people I'm for you or I'm at this. You have to investigate, look at, and make your decision, and you can back it up. And that's how I've changed. In the beginning, I thought I was always right on everything as a young guy. And I found out I wasn't. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a comment?
First is, I learned I'm not the smartest one in the room a long time before I got this much gray hair. And I think it's important to understand the background and experiences of all the people around, especially those other members in the council who have different types of experiences than myself, because I think that's an important part. I think also, as far as going just back a little bit on the fire station, I think putting a fire station or some sort of emergency service on the western part of the city actually provides a better balanced load for issues that may be confronting our part of the ward. So I think that there
Thank
is a
you.
link to that. But
Thank you very much. And Mr. Elder.
Thank you. Mr. Dumas, on the platform on your website, you make zero mention of our budget, taxes, nor spending. Those words are literally not on your webpage. How can the taxpayers of Ward 3, some of which pay $6,000 or $7,000 a year in taxes, be comfortable with you as a counselor when you refuse to mention city spending, taxes, and budgetary decisions?
It's a great question. I think once the budget comes up and we actually address line item per line item, and we can actually take a look and see where the spending is, and then we can actually take it from there and see where we can cut actual monies and allocate to different areas. I run a business every day, so I understand the bottom line and how critical it is in order that bottom line is essential in order to move forward and actually build this business, build this city to make it as great as what it could be and reinvest in our future, because the bonds, they're gonna come fast and furious. So if we can save money now with budgets, and then so our children's are not stuck with these bonds, then that would be a great thing.
Thank you. You have a comment?
So we don't allocate money to different areas. I can't say that the police are spending too much money here and we should move it there. That's not up to the council. But I've always been a strong supporter of the taxpayers. I've always watched city spending, watch what we're doing. Keeping taxes low and stable has always been a priority of mine. Several of my colleagues, the same way. We have a great finance team that are working together to keep taxes stable. If they go up 2 or 3% every year, it's much better than some of the other surrounding communities that see huge spikes. So we're doing very well, and it's because of the counselors that really watch the bottom line to make sure that the spending's appropriate.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Yerkes?
Thank you, Susan. Dave, can you tell us any of your votes that have been able to help or assist veterans?
Well, I think that one of the issues is we got a new veteran staff member that came in, and he had a lot of experience working in Framingham. And one of the comments was, as other people were applying for this job as well as him, a lot of them had him for references. So I think I was very proud to actually make sure that that person was voted in. I know I took the place of Bob Page, who was taking, he was the representative to the Veterans Committee. And I gave him great respect for the time he spent for the nation as well.
Thank you.
No
Do you have a
rebuttal.
comment? No comment? Okay. Now we get to our closing statements. As I had said before, the closing statements, everyone chose a number. And Mr. Dumas, you were first.
Thank you. You have heard the issues, and now it's your turn to make a difference by voting. I am not the guy to ever say I know everything, and that is evident by tonight. However, I am usually the guy at the table with the most heart. If I don't know something, I ask and I learn. The campaign component of this job for me has been amazing. What I love is being able to knock on your door and many times be invited in to sit at your table, and we just chat. We talk about your concerns in life. This position is about the people, and if I do not get to know you, then I don't know the issues or great ideas that you have. The neighborhoods in this expansive ward all have specific needs and wants. The connecting pieces in each neighborhood is the people who live, work, and care about this community. I heard many great ideas, such as neighborhood walks and meetings that I would like to take part in. I even heard of a neighborhood block party, which I hope to be invited to. Did you hear that, Decimone Drive? I'm coming. Your ward councilor should not be a politician who has term after term with no results, but be among the people by going to events, returning calls and emails, and go to important feasibility studies. This is why I'm running again, to be a public servant. My parents have instilled a work ethic that I'm grateful for, and I'm no stranger to hard work. I welcome and ready for the challenges to be next Ward 3 City Councilor. I hope to have your support and vote November 7th for Christian Dumas. If you have any questions, please go to christianformarlborough.com, and I would love to hear them. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. And the next one, Mr. Elder.
Thank you. The clear differences between my opponent and I, on his website and campaign literature, he's promising a lot to the taxpayers without much planning for it. I have a proven track record of watching the city's tax dollars to help keep spending under control while being an innovative thinker to help the city thrive. We don't need a fresh face. We don't need a new voice. The residents of Ward 3 deserve a strong, proven leader who will continue the hard work we've all put into this city. We are bringing in thousands of jobs while spending millions on infrastructure repairs. All of this is happening while taxes remain stable. Our vacancy rate and unemployment rates are some of the best along 495, and later this month, the Apex Center will be open to the residents of Marlborough and far beyond. This center's $1.5 million in annual tax revenue will immediately put this parcel as one of the highest taxed in the city to help keep taxes down. I've always been a consistent voice for the residents of the ward. Working closely with our finance team, the mayor, and the state, we have brought in around $20 million in projects and improvements to the ward, whether it's the John Street Playground, sewer repair on Glen Street, or Ward Park. Ward 3 sees millions of dollars in improvements each year. Under my leadership, we are a thriving city with a stable tax rate while bringing in thousands of jobs. We are the envy of most municipalities. However, all this did not just happen overnight. It takes years of hard work to get here. All of our hard work has put us where we are right now. And with your vote, we can continue this hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Doucette.
Thank you very much. And thank you to the viewers out there who are spending their time to learn about the local candidates in this municipal election. I've already spent a lot of time walking through the city, through the Ward 2, and I will continue to do that until the municipal election. I care about the people in Ward 2 and respond when contacted about issues like location of stop signs, the new speed reporting signs, road repair, water meters, or lead pipes. I followed up with them to make sure it's addressed or give advice on how they can advance their issue. The voters in Ward 2 who are not enrolled in any political party outnumber both parties combined, but all voters want our city to be better for our children. I'm a big fan of STEM education. My engineering degree and career provides the importance of teaching science, technology, engineering, and math to our schools. I also been active in an organization called 350 who is working on reducing carbon emissions. I believe that more politicians should think globally and act locally, and take action locally to address climate change. I'm a green geek who knows technology and business, where green is both environmentally and financially beneficial. I understand the economics of solar panels over municipal landfills and downtown parking garages are different than businesses. Conservation renewable energy projects have return on investments in 5 to 10 years and provide savings for decades by reducing fuel costs. Reducing carbon dioxide emissions in our city cleans the air and saves money. Solar panels on school roofs are not only savings for taxpayers, but also teach our children we shouldn't be dependent on others for our energy needs. My first term is only the beginning of a long-term commitment to our city. I want to work on building a better city for the benefit of our citizens and businesses and future generations who live, work, and visit Marlborough. To learn more about me, go to my website, doucetteformarlborough.org. That's with the number 4. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for your participation. I'd like to
Wait,
thank our
Wait,
partners.
Dick.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Yerkes, you have a closing statement for 2 minutes. I apologize.
I'm just sitting here being quiet. Thank you, Sue.
Oh, well, sorry.
I do want to thank the chamber.
Okay,
Fine.
you're welcome.
And
After the second night.
WMCT-TV, especially the Ward 2 voters that are sitting through and listening to our debate and trying to make a decision on which candidate to vote for. I feel that I'm the best candidate. With my past experience as a Ward 2 councilor and many terms at large, my experience in the council is very varied, and if I'm elected, I hit the stream in January without missing a beat. My community involvement, after 6 months of moving here, I started with baseball, and I've coached from T-ball to junior Babe Ruth. My work experience, not only in corporate America, but my own company, my education, all at night while raising a family, thank God with my wife, she put up with me, not being home often. However, Ward 2, you have a good decision to make, a hard decision to make, and hopefully you will make the right decision voting for me. At my last campaign at large, Metro West Daily News did endorse me, and their quote was, "He sits in no one's camp. He is thoughtful, accessible, and independent." And that's what I promise you. I'll bring more of the same to the council floor. So please vote on November 7th and consider me. Thank you. Now, Sue, you may go on.
Thank you. Can you tell I've been doing this a long time? Second night of debates. Anyhow, again, thank you to our partners, WMCT-TV, the Marlborough Regional Chamber of Commerce. I would also like to thank our panelists, Molly Broder, Darren McLaughlin, and especially our timekeeper, Karen Callahan, for participating in this very informative evening. And most of all, to the candidates who have put such great effort into running for a chance to represent our city. Thank you. I am inviting everyone who is here and everyone who is watching to please join me at the Chamber's Business to Consumer Expo on Wednesday, October 25th at the Marlborough Courtyard by Marriott. It starts at 4 p.m., goes till 8 p.m., and the admission is free to the public. Join me then. Please remember to vote on November 7th for the future of your city. Working together works better. And I thank you all. Good evening.